everybody. Welcome live to the Jim Masters Show, live entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series. Jim Masters here in the host chair, reporting for duty. We're here in the New York area in the United States, and we welcome all of you from all around the world, wherever you're watching. Thanks for making us a part of your day, your morning, noon, or night, because we know we have viewers that watch all around the world, and we appreciate whatever time it is. If it's late night, if it's morning, if it's afternoon for us here in the New York area. We welcome you. We're going to talk television. We're going to talk movies. We're going to talk some of your favorite TV series and lots more with a prolific, award-winning American screenwriter, as well as producer, director, and published author, who has worked behind the scenes on some of your favorite television series. And you know, of course, you guys know I work in television and radio, so this is right up my alley, and I love conversations like this. Stan Zimmerman is joining us from greater Los Angeles. We're so excited to have him here. Though he is a Detroit boy, he is from the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, grew up in the Midwest with Midwest sensibilities. And let me tell you, he's got a fantastic new book out. This is something we're going to talk about and a lot more. A few surprises we're going to throw in. This is, of course, The Girls, From Golden to Gilmore. Now, you're probably saying, does he mean the Golden Girls, the Gilmore Girls? Absolutely. And then some stories about all the wonderful women he's had an opportunity to work with. And let me tell you, not only working with iconic women in the industry as well, but as I mentioned, working on some of your favorite shows, classic shows that have become legend, like the Golden Girls. Yes, an unbelievable opportunity. We'll talk about it. And to work on Roseanne. Yes. And also, as I mentioned, Gilmore Girls as well, even working on The Nanny and also creating Rita Rocks. Of course, you know that too, right? A lot of you have been talking about that. And excitement for today's episode. Worked on Sex and Execs. Yes. Skirt Chasers. Paulie, which was on Fox. Even the George Burns Comedy Week. We talked a lot about George Burns on our show. Brothers, this goes back, and A Very Brady Sequel, and some of the other Brady movies as well. Just Our Luck, that goes back to the TV movie of Annie. And something recent, too, that we talked about because we had some of the folks from this on our show, including Linda Gray, who was a spectacular guest. This was really fantastic on Lifetime, Ladies of the 80s, A Divas Christmas. If you didn't get a chance to see it, make sure you do. I mean, there's lots of iconic talent from some of your favorite nighttime soaps and more in that incredible production. So, yeah, lots to talk about. Amazing career. He even had an opportunity to work on Fame. And you remember the cast there, of course. Look at some of the familiar faces, but one that stands out that he worked with is Janet Jackson. Yes. And in addition to working with Janet Jackson, look at this, much more. We can go on because his career is extraordinary. He's worked on so many fantastic productions, some that are also coming up, which we're very excited about. We're going to talk about this too. This is something that's coming up in September from the writers of The Golden Girls, Silver Foxes. Of course, James Burke and Stan Zimmerman putting this together. We're excited about that. So, television, film, he's a fantastic writer and producer in theater as well. And he started in the suburbs of Detroit when he sort of created his own little mock network. Hey, who didn't do that? I did the same thing. Mine was MBN, Masters Broadcasting Network. Did it in, with a Panasonic cassette recorder, interviewing all the family members and sort of creating our own little TV network in our bedroom. That's what you do when you get into these businesses or before you get into the businesses. And sometimes you even do it when you're still in the business. Stan is joining us because he has lots to share, and we're very excited to talk about the book. Let's welcome him from California. Stan Zimmerman is in the house. Welcome to the Jim House.
God, I'm exhausted already. Thank God.
But you got the coffee, right?
I got my coffee in my B. Arthur mug.
B. Arthur.
The line that I wrote, I make no money from this, and I had to actually purchase this. Sometimes I guilt people that make merch from my lines to give it to me, but this I was more than willing to pay for. And a T-shirt somebody made with, this is a Gilmore Girls font credit. So that's kind of fun and weird to have.
That's really, really cool, huh, to
Yeah.
have all of that available. So how are you? You are,
I'm good, but I have to say one thing, you get the wrong picture from Brothers. So it was
ah,
not that Brothers. It was a Showtime series. It was one of the first shows about a gay brother, Paul Regina, Robin Riker, Brandon Maggart. And what's his name? He was on Lou Grant. Anyway,
Lou
yeah,
Grant, you
you'll
had
find
Asner, yeah.
it. So it was that. It was
And
that,
not to be confused with Brothers and Sisters on ABC with Sally Field.
or Sisters with the
Or
great.
Sisters.
Or with the great Susie Kurtz, who is actually in my book,
Yes,
and I consider a friend, and I got to work with her on Rita Rocks. We
that's
brought her
right.
on as Nicole Sullivan's mother. That was my idea because in season 2 of that show, we were told right before we went into season 2 that 2 of our actresses, Nicole Sullivan and Tisha Campbell, both were pregnant at the same time. And they said, well, you can't write that in as 2 women pregnant because it would never happen. And we're like, but it's happening. That's the lovely part of getting notes from a network. So we figured out another storyline for Tisha, and I thought because with pregnancy there may be some weeks where she may not feel well, so that's when we wanted to bring on an actress to play her mother for an arc, and I don't know if this. I think it's in the book. Yeah, we actually talked to Roseanne about it.
Did you really?
The idea of doing it with her people, and I thought that would be kind of interesting because in creating Rita Rocks, I know we're jumping way to that point, but we wrote it on spec because we loved the idea of music. We're big fans of American Idol.
Oh, yeah.
And we loved our time writing on Roseanne, writing scripts. We had a lot of complications on the show, as I'm sure people have heard stories about Roseanne and all that craziness.
Hmm.
And that year it was not. So that's a picture from the Connors, I believe, when they came back. That was a revival picture. Our season, it was Sarah Chalk was replacing Becky.
That's right.
First year.
Yeah.
So she was just like, what the hell did I get myself into? She was just, and she had never done comedy. She was Canadian. And yeah, so she was like, a deer in headlights. And then
Mm,
I just love seeing her evolution and getting comfortable on camera and, obviously, doing Scrubs and doing other comedies. Um,
mm.
yeah, boy, we got off on, there we go. Well, that was before us. So that was the old Becky who came back. Yeah, but like in the book, we talked about, the beginning scene when they go around a table, and every year they would shoot a new opening. So we were sent
That's
off
right.
to a room full of writers to come up with a new beginning. And I couldn't believe they had never done Chinese food, which lent itself to sharing with the cartons. And that was an easy way to go around the table when you would pass the food. So that was kind of fun to see that one.
You had always enjoyed television and movies and everything growing up as a kid, right? And of course, your grandmother and your mother, you've had some very influential, loving, inspired women in your life growing up in Michigan that sort of set the tone. But you were sort of creating, you had your own little mock TV network like I did as a kid too. Mine was MBN, Masters Broadcasting Network. How about yours?
Mine was the Hughes Television Network. So I was like being real about it. I love that you use your name, but I had heard about Howard Hughes had this television company, but it was
That's right.
small. And I thought, well, what happened? With all of his money, I could use that and make it one of the major networks. But at that time, remember, there was only 3 networks back then. It was even before Fox. And so I kind of stole his name, and now I think it's like a cable provider. Is
Yeah,
the Hughes? Yeah.
he's right.
I kind of giggle every time I see one of the commercials. I'm like, you could have had your own network if you stuck with me. But they didn't know anything about it. It was all in my imagination in my bedroom, and I made out of cardboard a 7-day schedule, and I
Did you really?
little piece of the paper, and I think I cut up index cards, and I made the what all the other networks were programming. So I would counter
So
program.
a young Fred Silverman or Brandon
I, I
Tartikoff here,
wanted
huh?
I wanted to be a network executive. I thought that would be super cool. And then I plotted out, and I would make advertisements. I would draw them out with pictures of the different shows that I would do. And then I would go on the Mike Douglas show and talk about my schedule and my shows.
Yeah, so you'd have to fly to Philadelphia for that, right?
Well, in my head, I did, yeah.
Yeah.
It
That
was
is,
just upstairs in my little bedroom in Southfield, Michigan, that I had this dream, and that I would somehow be involved in television.
and
And
what
I,
were you watching at that time? What were the shows that I think in my research you loved Bewitched, of course. We
of
all
course,
love Bewitched.
yeah.
What are some of the shows that inspired you early on as a kid that you were really watching and in tune with?
I mean, early on, I somehow saw reruns of the Dick Van Dyke Show, and so that was my first idea of, oh, that's what a writer's room would be. So I thought, oh, it'll be so much fun to be best friends with the blonde woman with a little, black bow in her hair. And then Laugh-In came along and just blew my mind as a kid. And that's when I fell in love with Lily Tomlin. And I felt she should have a weekly variety show. So, of course, I gave her one and was lucky enough to tell her that years later. And if a show got canceled, like Taxi, and I felt it still had a life, I would bring it onto my network. And then there was a show called Love American Style, which was vignettes. And there was
Love American Style.
two of them,
Yeah,
red, white, and blue.
that's right.
And I saw one of the segments was called Love in the Good Old Days. And it was Ron Howard and Harold Gould. And it was set in the 60s or late 50s. And then I saw American Graffiti. And I thought, I need to put this on my network.
Yeah.
So I had The Good Old Days, I think I called it. I put it on my network. And then all of a sudden, I opened my TV guide and there's Happy Days. And I went running down to my mother and I was accusing her of like calling California and Gary Marshall. And you're selling my ideas to him. Like, I hope you're getting good money for it.
Right.
I couldn't believe like someone stole what a good idea I had. So
I tell you.
yes.
That's amazing. I used to collect TV guides. Did you ever collect them?
If we go upstairs, you will see.
You still have?
I have all the season premieres in the fall. They would come out with them. I had to get rid of the others, otherwise I would just be carting around too much. I have every playbill I've ever seen of every show, but I did keep the fall special previews because they had these beautiful color pictures of each new show, and I just felt so in the know that. And even during, I think it was 7th or 8th grade, I talked my junior high paper into letting me write a TV column called TV News. And I would basically rip off anything from TV Guide. And I would write each month it was an article about it, like a different genre. It was sitcoms or made for TV movies or Westerns or hour dramas. Yeah, I was obsessed as a kid. Yes, I was.
So did you have a TV in your bedroom?
No, we was not allowed.
Right. No, that was like, did you hear him put that coffee down definitively? No, we did
No,
not.
dang it.
Not
No.
even a black and white. I did get a black and white with an antenna first.
No, no. That was not allowed. I had to fight to get a phone in there.
You did, right.
That was a little more like get the
That
phone.
we actually didn't get. We didn't get the phone.
Really?
We did get the TV, but we didn't get the phone.
I think they wanted the phone there because that way I would be answering it. And also I was on the phone all the time. And I was mostly talking to young women who were my friends. And, back then we talked for hours on the phone. Now when my phone rings, I just like go,
who is it now?
Leave me alone. That sound. But as a kid, we would just sit and talk.
So how did you take that energy, that passion for entertainment and broadcast and television, movies, the whole bit? Because you wanted to be an actor. You wanted to be, that was the passion in the beginning, right? In addition to the TV executive, acting was sort of
also a little bit. I wanted to be an Ernie Flatt dancer, which was the dancers that Carol Burnett had. I thought that just kind of dance behind Carol Burnett or whoever she had best guess.
Wearing Bob Mackie.
Oh my God, I would wear anything. I didn't care. So I thought I would do that, and then I started acting at age 7 and would create plays, and then I ended up going to Cranbrook Theater School, and that's when I knew I wanted to do comedy, and I found my tribe, and I just fell in love with theater, and I'm still in love with it, and have gone back to it now in my old age,
Yeah.
but it feels like home. Um, it's just so exciting, especially post COVID, to be
Yeah.
in rooms with people, to hear people laugh or cry or whatever emotions I can drag out of them. But yeah, I thought I'd be an actor, and so my energies went towards that. I never thought I would be a writer. I didn't read as a kid. I didn't get the best grades in English class. I felt that you had to be really fake in English class and, and use a lot of adjectives, and that's how you get a good grade. And I was having none of that. But I did find a medium that allowed me to be a little bit more direct and not uh, just more real, I guess.
And you wanted
And
to be rich enough to have a beautiful mansion in the Hollywood Hills, didn't you?
here I am. I wouldn't call it a mansion, but I do have a lovely home that I just it's like a little cocoon. It's on a hillside, so it's a little, I call it like a tree house. So I'm just looking out at all these beautiful trees, and yeah, I'm very fortunate. But I miss New York. I'm kind of now splitting my time a little bit more with New York because I want to get back into theater. So
Yeah.
I'm finally doing a timeshare with a friend of mine that I just started in February. So now I'm calling myself, uh, you know,
A
living in
real
Bill.
estate mogul or
I wouldn't say mogul. It is a fifth floor walk up, but I do now. I can say I live in on 2 coasts, and I've been
bi-coastal.
yeah, bi-coastal, and I yeah, I'm just having a good time and seeing friends in New York and keeping up with theater.
So you've written a lot, you've done so many incredible things and continue to, Stan. Again, you've made your mark in the field of broadcast media, of television, and of course, film as well, and stage, while growing up in the suburbs of Detroit, as I mentioned, surrounded by 3 strong, intelligent women, your mother, grandmother, and sister, and they played an important role in your imagination and creativity. Instead of playing outside, you spent time in the basement, again, directing and acting plays with the neighborhood kids. It's funny, we did the same thing, but we didn't do the basement. We did the garage and the
Mhm.
backyard with the neighborhood kids.
Yeah, basement.
You could have grown up on Long Island too, my friend.
I wish I had. I actually dreamed of that. I would get the New York Times sent to my house, and also Variety, which was crazy that I was obsessed with reading Variety at 13 years old. But I would go and look in the back of the New York Times magazine, and there would be ads for those schools, boarding schools with like all the boys were like in these really cool jackets. It was very, Dead Poets Society, and I would show my parents, send me here, but that was not to be. They were very much into public school education for me, and but luckily later I got to go to New York and NYU and have that experience of New York City, and just love. The minute I land in New York, I just feel at home, and that's why I'm glad I'm bringing it a little bit more into my life. I've just been yelling at all my friends, I want to come back to New
I
York
want to
more.
come back to New York.
Yes.
Well, in the fall, you're coming back to the East Coast, right? In October, which is kind of
October, I'm
exciting.
to Guilford, Connecticut for
Yeah.
the Fan Fest Society, which is celebrating everything Gilmore Girls. And we've been doing it 9 years now.
Wow.
There was a little bit of time where it was virtual
Yeah.
during COVID, but we were a lot in Kent, Connecticut. We were a couple of years in Algonquin, Maine. We were the first year in Washington Depot. And it's been so wonderful to connect with the Gilmore Girls community, and they really have become like family to me. And there is a group of women that kind of follow me wherever I do plays or different cons or events. A whole bunch came in when I did a drama bookshop book signing event 2 weeks ago.
That's very cool. Going back in time a little bit, rewinding at 7.5 years old, you were the youngest student accepted into the prestigious summer theater school program. At
Mhm.
7.5? Wow.
I don't know what I said to the woman that was running it. I think, they're always are glad to get boys in theater and dance. But she liked me, and I guess I was charming in my own little childish way. But thank God that she did, because it was such a great outlet, and I am forever glad that I had that experience. And then during my summers off from NYU, I ended up going back and teaching there.
What were you teaching?
I was teaching acting and dance, and yeah, 'cause all the theater that I was learning at NYU, I'd come back and teach the kids, and that was really cool. That was like the start of having full circle moments, and I think the older you get, you start having more and more and more. But it was great to come back to that space. Uh,
Yeah,
all the classes were outdoors on this, they called it the meadow, but they were hills. We would sit in
right.
the grass in different classes, and then there was an outdoor amphitheater that we would do all the plays at. It was just gorgeous to be out in fresh air and being creative and being amongst other kids that love to do what I love to do.
When you were in high school, you were awarded a work study scholarship to New York, Circle in the Square. That's when you became Andy Warhol's unwitting photo subject one night at Studio 54, and also met Jim Berg, of course, too.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I started going to Studio 54. I don't know how they let me in, but they did. At some one point, I started dating a friend of Andy Warhol's, a fellow NYU student, and so one day he called me and said, "Oh, I have Andy's limo. I'm going to pick you up at the dorm, and we're going to go to." We just called it 54. I'm like, okay, but I always felt like an imposter there. I had this crazy Jufro, and I didn't really know about fashion. Not that I do now, but I'm a little more stylish, I think. And but there were all these fabulous, wonderful people, and I'm like, I hope they don't really look at what I'm wearing. I just felt just so out of place, and I didn't understand why this guy liked me. And he came from a very wealthy Park Avenue family, and it was culture shock. But I was so excited I was there. But one night I was there, and Andy Warhol was taking pictures of me, and I didn't really know who he was, and I told him to stop. Like, who would do that? That is the craziest thing. So somewhere out there, there's pictures of a very young Jewish boy with big Q-tip hair and probably glassy eyes at Studio 54.
And you met Jim Berg, who was a journalism student at NYU's University Without Walls, and you formed this writing partnership, which, of course, has continued to today. Tell us about meeting Jim, and what an incredible and important time that was for you and for Jim.
I met him through our friend Jack Eckstein, who was a Parsons art school student who shared dorms with us at NYU. And Jim and I just would make each other laugh on the street when we'd run into each other. And then we got to talking about our love of television. And he was loved writing and wanted to be a writer. And I just said, I have all these ideas, but I'm not a writer. And so we decided to go see a movie one day, and then went back to his apartment, started talking. We said, why don't we write a script together? And it was just magic. It was just to be able to find somebody that just thinks the way you do so much of the way. I mean, not 100%, that is impossible, but and for so many years, just being on the same wavelength. I feel so fortunate that our paths cross and that we still remain, best friends, and have had this crazy, wonderful career together and apart. Um, and that in the very beginning, we set rules. I don't know what made us do that, but rules like not talking on weekends, so that when we came together to write on Monday, it was very fresh. Um, we came up with a company name would be called Zimmerman Berg, but he would be listed as James Berg and Stan Zimmerman, like that. And then, once we got known in Hollywood, it got shortened to just, Z and B. Where's Z and B? So we were kind of known as that. But to be able to share a lifetime of a crazy career in Hollywood with another person has been so wonderful, because, there's so many ups, but there's a lot of down times. And to be able to hold each other up during those down times. And luckily, Mostly we haven't been down at the same time,
which is good.
which is really good. There was one time when we were both just so depressed.
Hmm.
For lunch, we literally drove to PCH and we're hoping like a boulder would come down uh, in our car.
Take
I know
care of things.
it's a little dramatic, but that's us. And we were just so many no's.
Yeah.
And
That's a part of it people don't realize is the amount of rejection that happens in order for one thing to actually be accepted and then to ride the wave, right?
and then what happened? His cell phone rang, and it was our agent saying, Lifetime read your script of Rita Rocks, and they want to make a pilot. And we're like, start driving before the boulder falls on us. We got to make a pilot. So we lucked out, and that was another career turn for us. Just when you think you're down and out and you want to give up, then that happened, and that was great. We got to make what was it, 40? How many episodes? We made two seasons
Yeah,
worth.
right. Yeah,
And it's not like 10 seasons. We did like 22 episodes a season. So to have
right.
44 episodes, most shows today would be lucky to have 20 episodes.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a real art as far as how you map out an entire season and come up with enough different stories, which is kind of a lost art, with these short orders that most streaming companies give their TV shows. And, that was brought up a lot during the strike, is that with these short orders, young writers are not getting that experience of how do you break, we call it breaking a story. How do you break 22 stories in a season and create arcs within that season? And I learned a lot on Gilmore Girls on have an overreaching arc and then have everyone has their own little arc.
That's so very, very true. And that's something that you learn as you go along. And it's something that, becomes part of the way you sort of handle things going forward. How did the Golden Girls opportunity come your way? And I should mention that you've been nominated for 2 Writers Guild of America Awards, Best Comedy Writing for the work on the Golden Girls and Roseanne as well. How did the Golden Girls come your way and enter your life?
Well, if we take a little step back, just pounding the pavement in LA, being very poor, couldn't afford to really do anything for fun except go to free tapings. And that would be a great place to also learn, what shows were out there. And we went from having nobody calling us back to suddenly we wrote a spec Cheers, and it was right when Cheers just had come out. Nobody had written that show yet. And so it was fresh and interesting. And then our life just changed instantly. And then suddenly people wanted to know who we were. We became the flavor of the month. And so then our agent called. We were out pitching at a lot of different TV shows like Family Ties. And oh, thank you, Kathleen. I'm reading the comments. And the Valerie Harper Show, which turned into the Hogan Family. We actually got that episode, that assignment, and at the same time as we got the Golden Girls, and just something in our mind.
Jason Bateman was on that too. Yeah.
Something said to us in our heads, this Golden Girls opportunity is golden. Don't put all your energy here. Don't be splitting it into doing 2 episodes on 2 different shows. So we told the Valerie show that we're going to politely decline. I think they paid us for the idea, but I don't know if they ever wrote a script on our idea. But we focused on Golden Girls. We wrote a first draft and turned it in, and instantly they were just like, we got to get you on staff. This was before the show was even started running. It was just the pilot was picked up, and they started filming episodes, but it hadn't come on the air yet in September. And because first drafts are so hard to find good writers that can do that, they knew that they had something special in us, and they luckily brought us on staff as staff writers, which unfortunately you don't get weekly credit on, which I don't quite understand. It's a very archaic Writers Guild rule. I feel, we were there every day, just like everybody else. It's kind of unfair that I feel you should just be credited. We had the same
sort of like unsung heroes. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're there pitching just like everybody else and had an office like everybody else, not getting paid what everybody else did. I didn't even care about the money for it. I feel like you should be credited for your work. We
Yeah.
had that problem again with the Brady Bunch movie. There's some silly Writers Guild rule that they only will credit the first four writers, and we were the fifth group of writers. And in order to get credit, that was the sequel. We did both movies, but on the first one, unless you change the structure of a movie, you do not get credit.
Mm, wow.
So we
Yeah.
were forced, when we got the job, it was just going to be a 2-week rewrite and punching up and adding jokes. Betty Thomas and me and Jim, we just clicked so much. She said, okay, should we just keep throwing us scenes? I have to have this location. So whether it was, the school or the gymnasium, and then you can just go to town and write anything. And we did go to town and write anything. And we just got crazier and crazier with that. And that's why I have to say it's probably the best job we've had, because I was able to use all my love for pop culture and being silly and being progressive and irreverent and smart and silly all at the same time.
And what a cult following it still has to this day, huh? There are people who are rabid fans of the Golden Girls.
And Brady Bunch. I mean,
Now, Brady Bunch, yeah,
to
sure.
have not just be involved with one hit show, but not that these shows are just hits, but that they're still culturally relevant, I think is really interesting. And figuring out why is that? Why those shows still mean so much. And that's
Why do
what's
you think that is? What these shows? What is it about? People obviously connect, they relate. Do they maybe they have family members in their own family that are similar to some of the characters? Maybe they see themselves in the characters. What are some things you have sort of garnered from being involved in shows that have really become classic television cult favorite?
I think they embrace universal themes. So you didn't have to be an old woman to understand a lot of their stories and their plights, their issues with family relatives. Same thing with Roseanne. It was also both. I mean, all three of those shows and Gilmore Girls, they just had different rhythms that you hadn't really seen in other TV shows, and yet they were familiar enough that people could take them in. It was also, these were formed families, and you just felt like you were coming home to them. And also, they were brilliantly cast, and and I think pretty smart writing. And I think what people have said, the commonality of my writing, I think they're really important to each of those shows, is they all had heart. You
Yeah.
just feel the heart in them,
Mm.
and they didn't talk down to their audience, especially Gilmore Girls. They talked up to it. I mean, so many times we would write things and people were like, "Who's Paul Anka?" And so a lot of weird references that people might have to go look up and figure out. Because so much of TV when I started, it was writing down to people. It had to be just just so that everybody understood it, and that's just not realistic in the world. It's okay to write, have people think and go, "What's that?" and look it up. So
Right.
that's what I loved about writing Gilmore Girls specifically.
You also, well, before we talk about this next one, what was it like working with Beatrice Arthur, Stell Getty, Rue McClanahan, and of course Betty White?
hmm Well, I grew up, watching three of them on television a lot. I loved Maude. I loved Mary Tyler Moore Show. That was another one of my favorites that you had asked about
Oh
earlier.
yeah,
It was just, and I love Carol Burnett, but that was hard to stay up for. I was young. It was like
right.
10 o'clock. I mean, I think I made to like 10, 12, and then
Yeah,
I would lie down on the couch. And so I kind of watched the show sideways. And then I'm sure by 10:20, I was out like a light. um, and then my parents would come home and, get the babysitter out of there, and I'd probably pick me up and throw me in bed.
that's like the other one that I've been watching yeah, since. It's airing. Family with Christy McNichol and Meredith
Oh, I
Baxter
love
and
that. That
Sada
was great.
Thompson, and
Yes.
that would be like it was on at a time where we were not allowed to be up. But I remember hearing the theme. I remember seeing the house, the pan in the beginning of the open with the house, and some of the storyline. Christy McNichol, of course, was huge at that point, but
Mary
not being
Baxter.
able to see it because it was at that time it was even, that was adult topics and all that other. But now that's one of my favorite series.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
really good. I mean, I was obsessed with the movie of the weeks, and it was
the
Tuesday ABC
movie of the
movie.
week.
Yeah, yeah. And you remember the music and that thing coming at you? Dun, dun,
Yeah, and that was that
yeah.
was Burt Bacharach's song written for his daughter. There,
Oh, I didn't know
the
that.
theme to that is this. I forget the name of it, but there's a song that Burt Bacharach wrote for his daughter, Nikki, I think. Da-na-na-na-na-na. That is, if you listen to that song, it is the movie of the week
Oh
theme.
my God. So
Yeah.
they were just tawdry little movies that, my friend Donna Mills was in one of them, The Weekend Nun, which I made into a TV series for my network, and I got to tell her that too. Um, uh, yeah, they were like Lifetime movies, but back then, and they were just crazy movies. Like there was a movie called Women in Shame with Ida Lupino.
Yeah. Yeah.
She played a horrible warden. I remember that, and
Yeah.
back
Crawl
then was
Space, Outrage, where the neighbors were, the kids were tormenting the new people on the block with their hot rods and doing all kinds of things. That was a really good one. I think Robert Culp starred in that one.
They had some
Yeah.
great ones. They had like Brian's Song, which was a beautiful
Yeah.
tearjerker.
Hmm.
That Certain Summer. I mean, and Elizabeth Montgomery, my favorite from Bewitched, she got to do a lot of them. And then it turned into like Sally Field doing Sybil, and so actually one of the first pilots we wrote was for Sandra Bernhard, called Sandra Bernhard Trapped in a Movie of the Week, which we sold to Showtime. And in that crazy concept, she was going to get stuck in a different movie of the week genre every week. The pilot was those disease movie of the weeks, and she had like every disease possible. She was,
The whole town is missing. Where is everybody?
yeah.
Some mysterious disease took them out. I remember. Yeah, that's
They were crazy, but I loved them because they were also so original, and they
now they're on YouTube or whatever. You can see
are
them.
they? Yeah.
Yeah, they're not obviously, and uh, some of them are a little blurry. People tape them off TV, or whatever. But
Yeah.
but they're cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was obsessed with those and also variety shows. And at one time, I just loved Flip Wilson and, like I said,
Yeah.
Laughing. And then during the summers, they would have these summer variety shows with like the Carpenters or different musical acts. That Melba Moore and Clifton Davis had one.
Captain and Tennille, Sonny and Cher, the Osmonds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So at one point,
The Brady kids,
they
right?
had the variety show. I had talked to Paul Rubens, who was a friend, and I was like, let's start a variety show network. And he thought that was such a good idea. And I'm sorry that we'll never get to
And
do
we
that.
just lost him. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was,
that
of
was
course,
a
Pee
very
Wee.
difficult
Yeah.
day. I was with Liz Torres, who plays Miss Patty on Gilmore Girls. And she lives near me, and I go to visit her like every other week. And my Mondays with Miss Patty, and the phone buzzed, and I looked down, and a close friend had said that Paul had passed. And I was one of the few people that knew that he was not well. He really wanted, I think, to keep it a secret so that people would think of Pee Wee in that fun way and not like poor sick Paul. So in my mind, that character was a blessing and a burden for him. I mean, it brought him riches and fame and fans and just so much love from around the world. But that's a lot to carry with you, to be in that character for your life and
Absolutely.
your livelihood.
Absolutely. It's a great shot there.
Yeah, I was pitching a show at NBC, and they had all the pictures down the hall, and I was like, quick, take this one.
Were you closer to any one of them more than the other?
Yes, I got very close to Estelle.
Yeah.
Right away, we hit it off, and then started hanging out outside of the show. And I got to hear about, she had a lot of anxiety, which she's talked about, and people have written about filming the live episodes every week in front of a studio audience. She was not experienced in that the way, Betty White, when they turned on television, they say there was Betty White. And, obviously that was from Hot in Cleveland. I was shadowing the director, hoping to direct sitcoms, and I got to talk to her. And that was, and also that week, the Celebration Theater, which is the place that gave me my first theater directing gig, they were doing a benefit for them. And one of the Sean Hayes and Todd Milliner were producing Hot in Cleveland, and they said, which, do you know any scripts that would be right for the cast of Hot in Cleveland to read? And I was like, hello, one of mine. I'm not letting you do somebody else's script. And they said, do you have any copies on your computer? And I said, no, we type them on typewriters, but I'm going to go home and get you a hard copy. And we did. And that night, watching the brilliant cast of Hot in Cleveland, including Betty White, read my script from when I was, a mere child, I didn't want the night to end. It was so beautiful. It's such a great experience. And it was interesting that Betty did not want to play Rose. She wanted to play B. Arthur's part. She wanted to be Dorothy.
Mm-hmm.
I think she would have been Sophia. I think that would have been funnier, but
yeah,
she had to play Dorothy. And you're not going to tell Betty White no.
Mm-mm. No. How long were you with the Golden Girls?
Just season 1.
Yeah.
But I stayed in touch with Estelle. And then years later, she ended up coming to my 30th birthday party. But we would, have dinners with a lot of her ex-castmates from Torch Song Trilogy. She did it in New York and on the road. And then, just she'd invite me over for birthday parties and whatnot, or we'd go to theater together.
What was it like working on Roseanne? What was the set atmosphere like? What was the camaraderie like?
There was no camaraderie.
Yeah.
Camaraderie? What are you talking about? You are absolutely out of your mind.
A lot of ulcer medication? Or?
It was hell in a lot of ways. I really respected the material and the stories we were telling, but Jim and I actually passed on season 1 of getting on staff for that show. Laurie and John hadn't been cast yet, and I was a huge fan of seeing Roseanne's comedy on television, and I thought there was a TV show in her, but we weren't willing to sign a contract for 7 years without knowing the details. But then it came back around to us in season 5, and I'm really glad we jumped on board and got to write the lesbian kiss episode. But there was 21 writers, so it was just very intense.
And that episode, was that something, did you have to go through a lot of hoops for that episode to actually come to pass?
Yes. So we came up with the idea and we started writing it. And it was during the Northridge earthquake, actually. So I have pictures of Jim underneath the table, because they said that's where you go to, because there were so many aftershocks. And that kind of prepared us for the aftershocks that this episode cost. And the network said they weren't going to air it, and it became a news story on the 11 o'clock news. So I would come home from work and they'd be talking about me and my episode. And the network they were adamant. And luckily, Tom Arnold and Roseanne Barr said, if you don't air this episode, we'll buy back and buy time on HBO and air it there. And luckily, so that's why I'm so conflicted with where Roseanne is now and the way she's screaming now. And, she used to be a real voice for the underdog. And
yeah, right. Yeah.
It's very sad because she doesn't seem to be wanting to bring people together, but to dividing people. And I don't understand that. It's too bad, because she had a very special voice, and now it's just a screaming voice. It's like, nails on a chalkboard. But she's been very open about her mental health issues, from way back when. And our year, there was one table read, which I write about in my book. There it is. I write about that after the table read, we heard her screaming with Tom Arnold behind the set, and then a door slam, and then Tom came out and said, she's going to go off and get electric shock therapy. And we had to write her out of the episode. And we had to go back to our office and come up with a whole new episode without Roseanne. And we came up with this one story about a girlfriend that Dan had talked about in a previous episode that he was close with in high school, and Roseanne was kind of jealous. And who do we cast? Another full circle moment. Vicki Lawrence from the Carol Burnett Show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really thrilling. And then if people remember, at the end of Roseanne episodes, we would do these funny, weird tags. They're called tags.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of had nothing to do with anything, and they would cut them off after syndication. But so I came up with this idea because I was obsessed with Vicki's song "The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia."
Yes.
I still have the 45 record.
You have the 45?
Still somewhere here. Yes, I still have it.
I used to have it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was her with a chalkboard, and someone was saying, like, what the hell did that song mean? So she explained it on a chalkboard. Well, this is the night that they went out, and this, and, you know, old Drovo Dixie Down, or whatever the lyrics were. So that was pretty cool to, you know, grow up with that song. And then suddenly there I am with her, writing for her.
It's amazing what ends up happening and what things that you did and thought about to, I mean, you must pinch yourself several times because now you've had an opportunity to work with these people that you've admired and maybe revered, and now you're actually working on projects with them. That gets a little fantastic, doesn't it?
You know, and people have said, oh, you name drop a lot in the book, but those are the people I worked with. You know, if I had another job, I worked in a library or an accounting firm, I would talk about those people. So, you know, the meetings I have were at Jane Fonda's house. That was just who I was lucky enough to be in rooms and homes with.
George Burns.
George
Burns Comedy Week. I mean, what was that like?
Well, that was Steve Martin produced that. So we had to go pitch episodes. It was an anthology series. And we pitched a bunch of episodes to Steve Martin. And it was the first time you go in, you think he's going to be the wild and crazy guy. And that was how I learned that most comics are not like that. They're the exact opposite. He was very
serious. Yeah.
Very serious. But, you know, we got to be friends with him a little bit. We were invited to his house. And yeah, so that was interesting. And the director of that episode was Phil Alden Robinson, who went on to do Field of Dreams. So and it starred Martin Mull from Roseanne. It was about a family. It was about the Witness Protection Program. And because of budget cuts, they had to put 4 people together in one family instead of having them all off in separate identities. So Martin Mull played the father. So it was a forced family. And it was kind of like that movie that Jennifer Aniston did years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so she stole our idea, and we talked about turning it into a TV series. That never happened, unfortunately. But it was cool just to have an experience where George Burns, you know. But my father introduced me to Burns and Allen in their radio show, and so to you know, even be
again, just
sphere.
It's like,
but I think because of my Midwestern upbringing, really always took the moments to appreciate every time I was, you know, at a different spot or the different people I was lucky enough to work with.
Including Janet Jackson and Fame, right? Tell us about that.
We were pitching episodes at that time, and we pitched to Fame. And my full circle moment with that was at NYU. I had auditioned. One of my first auditions in New York City was for the movie of Fame, which I didn't get. And then I ended up moving into the apartment across the street from where they were filming it. So I had to see them dancing in the street all day long. So that was, but I got my revenge by getting an episode of Fame. And that one was Janet Jackson's character got a bad review, and about dealing with that. And she got to sing a song, and the director was Debbie Allen. And Debbie picked Dream Street, which was on Janet's first album. And Hi, Christine.
So you're responsible for her music
For her
career, of
whole
course.
career,
For the
yeah.
whole career, of
And
course.
I was in a bar one night, and on the screen they had cut the song from Fame, and made a music video out of it. And so that was really, really, really cool. I
It
got to
was.
talk to Debbie Allen later on. I was at, here's another name drop, but it was a Raven Simone birthday party
Oh, yeah.
at Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. Um, and yeah, I have not talked to Janet since, but I would love to. That'd be cool.
Of course, Janet, we all knew even before all of that when she was on Good Times, the
Yes.
Norman Lear, right? Janet Dubois' sort of adopted daughter, and who had been abused. And I remember how important those series of episodes were. And then that was pretty much the introduction for Gary Coleman too,
Hmm.
who was quite funny on that on that series.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got
he
to meet Norman Lear a few years ago.
did
Luckily,
you?
before his death, I really thought, because he was turning like 90, 95. I'm like, I'm never going to get to meet him. He's my hero. And he really taught me about you can be political and progressive and have heart and care about people, and combine that with entertainment and being socially active. Um,
He was the master of that for sure, huh?
yeah, but I mean, I
Yeah,
had really not many people do that, and that you can be very popular entertainment, but also build bridges and make people laugh and think and grow a little bit in their minds and be more accepting and challenge people. And I thought that was so cool what he did with All in the Family and all of his shows, really. I
absolutely.
got to tell him that and said, "Oh, thank
Say
you, thank you,
yes,
thank you."
right?
That was a really big moment, and just Stan, just keep talking, don't stumble over your words, and then get out.
He waited all his life to hear you say that, Stan.
Yes, I'm
And
sure he did.
now I can
Now I can go. Yes.
exit stage left.
There you go.
Fran Drescher, the nanny, too.
Well, that was a very, very little point of time in our life. So when we started doing overall deals at studios, they just said, "Here's an office, here's an expense account, you create shows," and which was really nice. Which is how I got a house. But then they started saying they wanted their money back. So they're like, "Okay, we're going to put you on TV shows." So when we had signed a deal with Sony, they said, "You can come on, but we're going to burn some of your salary off by you going to help on The Nanny." And I think it was the last season of The Nanny. And it, I mean, I love Fran Drescher. I'm very happy for all of them. It wasn't my style of writing, really. And also, when you walk into a room, it's very intimidating. They'd all been together for many, many, many years. They didn't really want us there. We were just there because the studio was, wanted us there. But I got to hang out at Fran Drescher's house and smoke some pot with her and come up with some ideas for episodes. I love coming up with story ideas.
You
That's
do.
kind of my thing. I really love story.
And are you always observing life and what's going on around you and soaking that all up? Can you be, on a train and a plane and a supermarket and see what's going on around you and get ideas? How are you inspired?
24/7. I'm doing it to you right now. So if you see somebody, you
That
know,
looks and
you know,
sounds like Jim
Tim
Masters.
Tim Tim Lasters, you're gonna go, "Wait a minute.
Yes.
That sounds very familiar." And, a lot of friends and family my mother used to say, "Watch out what you say in front of Stan because he's gonna use it somewhere." And she loved, seeing my TV shows, and she would always be like, "Did I say that?" And sometimes she did, but sometimes if she thought that and I
She
was
didn't start to edit herself, did she?
no, that was not my mother. She would never do that.
There would be no editing.
No, I wish she would edit it. No, of course. But sometimes she thought she heard herself in characters, and even if I didn't, it was just like I let her believe that.
You just
But you're always inspired. I think that's
You're always inspired,
what I
right?
mean for me anyway. I'm just always curious, and as the world changes, and I'm just always have my eyes and ears open to everything.
I talked a lot about television, but of course, TV movies and theater, film, and all. The Annie TV movie as well. That was something quite special.
Yes, we did not want to do that. We kept fighting it. So
Really? And it just came to you. They wanted you. Yeah.
Neil Marin and Craig Zaden were, this was back at Sony around the nanny time, and we had a deal there, and they were in the office next door, and we would run into them. We kind of knew them socially, and they would chase us to our car like, oh, we're doing this new Annie movie, and we really need help on the script. And Rob Marshall, who went on to direct Chicago and many things, it was his first directing gig. And they just signed Kathy Bates, and she was an Oscar winner. And so they was like, we got to write some great lines for her. And we're like, oh, okay. Like, what did you need us for? So we came in for a 2-week polish again, and they liked what we did. And we kept rewriting. But Kathy didn't want funny jokes. She had felt that Carol Burnett had done the funny version in the original movie of it, and she wanted to be a little more dramatic. So then we started focusing on Rooster and Lily's, which was Kristen Chenoweth in her first major part, and the wonderful Alan Cumming. They need to do more together because they're just extraordinarily talented.
Mm-hmm.
And so, now we're close up with you. Okay. So we kind of
the camera angles.
Yeah. So we kind of rearranged a little bit. So because it was a TV show with commercials, it was a network TV movie. So you had to create act breaks in a way around the commercial. So we needed to do some fixing with the Lily story. So we got to do that, and I became friends with Alan Cumming, and got to know Kristen, and she was like just this new kid in Hollywood, and all the agents and everybody was descending on her. She's such a super talent.
Absolutely right. And
it was Audra McDonald and Victor Garber. It was like an insane cast.
Yeah.
And some people say it is a quintessential Annie, because I think it was just beautifully done, and got back to the roots of the real story, and it really celebrated what the play was, but just enhanced a little bit and had a little bit more fun.
Like I said, you've had an opportunity. Didn't you work on Just Our Luck as well?
Yeah, we don't discuss that. Now, that was our very, very first job, and it got me out of, TK Carter and Richard
This
Gillen.
is like 1983. Around there.
Around there, a little bit later. Yeah. But Richard Gillen was married to Gene Smart, and he passed away just a couple of years ago.
Right.
Wonderful, wonderful guy. But
yeah,
that got me out of working at a movie theater in Hollywood, and that was our very, very, very first job. And
wow.
And of course, it was exciting to be on a studio lot and be on a TV show, but the show was quickly canceled. And
but still, it was an opportunity that sort of
it opened doors. We got
just your luck.
It was just our luck, and through that opportunity, we got our first pilot script at CBS. And so to have that as staff writers was very unusual.
Yeah.
But for some reason, CBS really wanted to be in business with us.
Yeah, so it's really amazing. Paulie too.
I just spoke with him, actually. He's making a little documentary about
Richard Simmons. Isn't he doing something? He did something with
Richard Simmons movie, but he's actually making a documentary about his life and his mother, who created the Comedy Store.
That's right.
So we were at an overall deal at 20th, and they asked, we were writing a script on spec, and we came up with this idea about this Beverly Hills kid who was really spoiled and had a really rich dad. And the dad came back from vacation with a really hot young mom who was a kind of a gold digger, who Charlotte Ross played. They said, we want Paulie to do it. And we're like, okay. And then two networks wanted to do it, and NBC and Fox. And because we were connected with Fox, we gave it to Fox. And then the critics they went at it with hatchets. They just did not like Paulie. They couldn't even see the show. And I think it was really clever and smart, but all they saw was, they just really resented him having a show at all.
Yeah, it was, I remember, it was tough. And that is tough, right? When you have something that you believe in, and even the viewers like it, but the critics come in and they sort of take it apart. How do you handle that as somebody, you're putting your heart and soul into these projects? How do you handle it? You obviously you have to build up a thick skin and armor, but how do you handle it?
It was hard, to be honest, especially with that show, because before that, every TV season we would be offered 3 or 4 different TV shows. After Pauly, nothing. I mean, they, I guess, blamed us for it, and it was really something that we just wrote on spec, and the studio had to deal with Pauly, and he had an on-air commitment, and so we kind of got meshed together. But it was hard in our minds because we were the same writers we were before the show, but there was just this taint around him and then got on us. And so then that's when we had to kind of reinvent ourselves. And luckily the Brady Bunch came along.
Tell us about how that came along. I mean, that's a fantastic franchise that again still has the cult following. And did you see what that beautiful job HGTV did on the
Yes,
renovation of the
I tried
house?
to get into that house, but they wouldn't let me in. So I might have to just scale the fence or go in the doggy door.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, like I said, it was a 2-week punch-up job, and just it kept going, and we were just in our element on that gig, and it was really, really wonderful. And we were there while Betty was doing all the initial casting, and would come in and say Shelley Long wants to do it, and then she came in and she played us the for the dad, Mike, but she wouldn't let us see who it was. But this actor had the voice down so perfect. And then she says it's Gary Cole. And we're like, Gary Cole, the drama actor?
Right.
He was on a show called Midnight Caller. We're like, no, that can't be him. But he totally got this, the tone of what we were doing, and was absolutely brilliant. But Christine Taylor, Jennifer Lee Cox, Olivia Hack, they were all so good in it.
Now, did you have an idea too to sort of maybe it was streaming or something to do a series with the girls on?
Yeah. Those 3 women, we had talked to the actresses about bringing them back and doing a show called The Brady Ladies. And what we would do is set it in contemporary time in West Hollywood. The 3 daughters move into an apartment. The super of the apartment would be RuPaul. And but they were still stuck in the year of the movie, which is 1985. So we love the conceit of the movie. That was not our idea, that they were in the past in the modern day. So we love to set the Brady. One was widowed, one was divorced, and of course, Jan, nobody ever married her.
That is very, very true.
I think people would want to watch it. Whenever I talk about it on air or something in a podcast, people just like flip out over it. But Paramount will not make it for whatever reason. They have a huge franchise there that's just sitting there, and we have all the original actresses from the movie that want to do it. So just give us 6 episodes, and I promise we will.
What do you think it is? Do you think they just don't think they have it stuck in time, and it wouldn't be relatable with today? We'd all be there.
I've given up trying to figure out network executives. They play it very safe, but Paramount owns that franchise. I don't know what they're doing with it, but let us have a crack at it. And Betty Thomas wanted to be involved. It would just be, I think, it's a no-brainer for us.
In addition to this incredible career in television, and again, making your mark in so many iconic shows and shows that became iconic as a result, you have an illustrious career and a lengthy career on the stage and working in theater.
Did you see Yes, Virginia in Pinehurst? So that was kind of loosely based on my mother and housekeeper. And,
right.
I've done it with Mindy Sterling and Arnisha Walker, and we've got to travel a little bit with the play, but I love that play so much.
Too. And Mary Van Frank too, LA production.
Yes, so I've done 9 iterations of that play all over LA and also Vancouver since 2018. And hope to continue. We did 3 really great versions of it last year. And so I'm hoping to do Yes, Virginia, actually in Virginia.
In
November. So I'll have to come back on and talk about that.
Silver Foxes too, right?
Yeah, so we did a sellout. Yes, another show of yours here recently, I think. Yes, I did Right Before I Go, which is a suicide awareness play. I did that in Virginia. But Silver Foxes is kind of I guess people call it a Gay Men Golden Girls, and we had written it as a pilot, and did a infamous reading in my living room with the late Leslie Jordan and George Takei, and just Sherry O'Terry, and a great cast, and Melissa Peterman and others. And then we turned it into a play after no network would make the TV show. And we just a year ago did a sellout run at Dallas's Uptown Players that the great Michael Urie directed.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's a Midwest premiere in September 6th. And I will be there for that in Ohio.
that's going to be fantastic, huh? Looking
Yes,
forward to it. Yeah, there's information there
come
for
see me
everyone.
there if you're in the area.
Now, the book itself, that's a bottomless cup of coffee, huh?
I'm doing a very
There's Maud, and then there's
little
Maud.
steps. Yeah.
God will get you for that, Walter. You probably have answered this a billion times, but there is the thought of writing a book, and then there's writing the book. What was the writing process like? How did you have an idea what you wanted to cover? And is this something that was sort of in the back of your frame of reference for a long time? You knew you wanted to write a book, or did people tell you, you've got all these stories, you've got to write a book, Stan? How did it all develop for you?
About 7 years ago, I guess because I kept getting that question of, why are you writing about so many women? And then I thought of the title, and I love a good alliteration. And then I happened to mention it at one of the Gilmore Girl fan festivals. And so then every year I would go back, and they kind of held me accountable to, where's the book? Where's the book? Where's the book? And then COVID hit, and I was like, okay, I'm stuck in the house. I'm going to get a publisher. And that was really difficult. And then I decided, I kind of outlined it, but then I thought, I'd been keeping journals since college, and I journaled all during all of these great TV shows. So that was the beginning of the work process, was sitting down with a lot of coffee and espresso and sugar-free Red Bull, and pulling all the journal entries from those shows. And that kind of was my way of easing into it. And then commenting on where I was to where I am now. And now we have a book. It may be my only book. It was really difficult to write, but
Was it really? What made it
well,
difficult?
I usually write with other people, and this was on my own. I'd only written one thing with somebody. I mean, by my own, and this was the second thing. And then, wasn't dialogue. It was mostly just paragraphs. So that was kind of new to me. I had no idea how to write a book. And then I had no idea what the ending was going to be. I had outlined everything. And then that's when my mother passed away after 13 days from the stroke to hospice. And then I realized that's the last chapter. And, realizing that she was my one true golden girl, and I had lost my biggest cheerleader.
It's beautiful that she got a chance to see what came to fruition. She saw you when you were doing the things in the basement and the hopes and dreams, and to actually see these things happen for you. I'm sure she and other members of the family were very proud, huh?
It was really great that she got to come to so many of the tapings, and that's why I was so thrilled when she decided to move from Detroit to Santa Barbara. And she would always say, I'm close enough that I can come down for these things, but I'm not just going to pop in, because I'm driving by your house. And so we got to have this great experience for many, many years of me going up there, but for her coming down. And she loved to be treated what she called like the Queen Mom. So we'd give her the Queen Mom seats at all the tapings, the front row of the bleachers, and she would kind of wave. And she wasn't wearing a hat like the Queen Mom, but I probably should have given her one.
If you had a dream show or two that you didn't work on, but you wish you were a part of, what would they be?
Well, going back in time, Mary Tyler Moore, Dick Van Dyke. I would love to have worked on Sex and the City. I don't know if in the configuration that it would have made sense, but I just love those characters, and that would have been a cool show. It made so much sense. Girls, I loved Girls. It would have been great, Golden, Gilmore, and just girls. Um, Yeah, those kind of TV shows now, I think. But now my focus, I really want to just really do more theater and, direct and other people's work, but also, get my plays up and going in the New York area and around the country.
What about the acting? Is there a possible return to that or pursuit of that? Have you had, I'm sure, because you were involved in casting too. Does that happen? Do you get that call like, hey, you'd be great for this, Stan, and come on, let's do this? And
I did get one. Someone had me do a commercial. It was for wastewater. Yeah, the great product, Stan. And I just had a ball doing that. And I will spill a little tea. So my suicide awareness play that I've been performing in around the country, I just
what's the
sold
name of it? Tell everybody.
called Right Before I Go, RIGHT, and it's using real suicide notes. There we go.
Yes.
I've got
Yes.
to perform it opposite Vanessa Williams and Blair Underwood and Hill Harper and Virginia Madsen and also going to different cities and just doing it with college students and other actors in different towns, which have been great. But I just sold it as a film, and
Congratulations.
I'm going to be playing me in it. So
What
that's
is it about that topic that interested you to want to actually embark on such a
about
very important project?
about 12 years ago. A very, very close friend of mine, Kevin Gill, died by suicide, and as a comedy writer, I didn't really know how to handle it, and I knew he left a note. I was mentioned in the note, but I couldn't get the note from the person he had sent it to. So to try to figure out the why, I started collecting real notes online, and that's how the play came together.
And I bet as you were collecting them, you're very moved by these notes that were coming in your direction, huh? People pouring their hearts out and expressing themselves in a beautiful way.
That's what kind of shocked me, that there was just this level of clarity and poetry in a way in the writing of it. And I wanted to share that so that other people that were going through those feelings would realize, oh, I feel that way too. I'm not alone. But I also wanted to give hope in the play and to realize that, as I say in the play, where you are today is not where you're going to be tomorrow. We don't know where we're going to be 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days. So live for what's around the corner. And I actually found real notes from people that attempted it but survived it. And I ended up putting that at the end of the play. So it ends with a lot of hope. There is some humor because it's me. But if anybody wants me to come to their town, or a lot of, it's now a published play through TRW Plays. It's starting to be done around the country with or without me. It's very important to provoke conversation with this topic. And so that's why my passion now is marrying art and advocacy together.
I love that.
I wish I could be doing this play every weekend somewhere, but I think it's very important to talk about it and not just keep shoving it under the rug.
That's so true. And again, to have an opportunity to take art and advocacy and bring it together, it really is a beautiful thing. And it's full circle for you in so many different ways. Stan's beautiful work. Here's something else we pulled up. That's cool too, huh?
So that was a play about my mom and my housekeeper. And I'm just in love with those two women. And
yeah.
And the crazy story, like they were both have the same birthday.
Yeah.
And Mindy I've known for a long time, and she's kind of been my muse and been in many, many, many plays. And that to have that experience, with one of the early plays that I wrote, to have her play that and play a version of my mother, was not really totally my mother, but and have her knowing my mother was really cool. But to be friends with Mindy, who I've just adored and admired from afar. And then also to have directed her in her Emmy-nominated performance in Sex and Execs. I mean, this little teeny web series we made for $25,000, we were suddenly at the Emmys against all these really big financed shows. I mean, look at that cast with Sandra Bernhard and Olivia Dabo from Wonder Years. I mean, just great, great people. And Bane Gibby is in there from The Comeback. And so that was a pilot Jim and I wrote, and nobody would make it. And so we decided to, cut it up into 3 little web series, and luckily Tello Films optioned it, and I got to direct them.
There's another one too, right?
Skirt Chasers with Barry Bostwick and Elizabeth Keener from the L Word, and Meredith Baxter was in it. And yeah, so it was about a father and daughter who were estranged, and they were both skirt chasers. They were both womanizers, and they didn't treat their women very well. And she played a lesbian, and everybody loved that script. But at the time, people said, "Oh, we have our one gay script of the year. You're only allowed one." So that was very frustrating. And again, because I didn't want to let it go, we turned it into a web series.
We mentioned Gilmore Girls, and I know that was fantastic to be a part of that. But there's also this tremendous cult-like fan base, and you come to the Northeast to celebrate it with a fan fest too, right?
Yeah, it's called the Fan Fest Society. So go to them and you'll get to see details. And there's always fun people from the show that end up coming there. But it's not like a con where there's booths and you meet, you got to wait in line. This, we're all hanging out in the town. It's just very casual. And so you're just having dinner and drinks. And so the fans become friends and vice versa.
What was it like working on that series?
It was hard work because
Was
they
it? Yeah.
talk so damn fast.
Yeah.
But I just love the writing and the sense of detail. And I love Lauren Graham. She's the coolest person. She's out on a book tour now with the wonderful Sam Pancake, who's a good friend of hers. And if you can get a chance to see her live, and she's such a great actress. I mean, she's done Broadway too. After Gilmore, she did Guys and Dolls on Broadway. But she's just a cool person, just like you'd want Lorelai to be.
You've had some extraordinary experiences, continue to, and you have graced us with lots of incredible material, you and Jim, and you're collaborating and still working on more stuff, which I think is fantastic. What would you say to maybe the 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old version of yourself as you're creating your network in your basement and your bedroom? What would you say to that kid now, with all of these incredible people you've met and experiences, the ups and downs, the craziness? Of course, in these industries, nothing is always perfect. Nothing is always as glamorous as it seems. There's so much blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of hours and sacrifice to make all of these things occur. And some of these things that you've mentioned have either just come your way, or you've been able to, work your tail off to make these things happen. What would you say to that 12, 13-year-old version of Stan?
Well, what I did tell him, keep dreaming. The dreams do come true. And they're not just for people that are asleep. Because I would go to bed excited to dream about what was going to happen. And then I've been lucky enough and worked really, 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 really hard. And sometimes 7 days a week, which my friends would think I was crazy. But I love what I do. And I feel very lucky that I get to do what I get to do.
I love that line. Dreams are not just for people who are asleep. Write that down. There's this next show.
Well, we kind of had
love that.
And we kind of used it in that Lily Tomlin movie, the Ruthie Ruddock story. So I'm kind of paraphrasing it for that. So I didn't just come up with it off my head, but it did sound kind of perfect for this moment. So
you're amazing, Stan, truly. And we thank you for all of the entertainment, the wit and wisdom and everything thus far. Decades worth already, and hard to believe, but it goes by in a New York minute. So much more to come. And I want you to come back and see us again. As I said to all the guests on the show, like we say, it's free flowing and conversational. We're going to keep the porch light on for you, and you're welcome back anytime. And if you know other folks you think like to stop by the Jim Master Show series, they're all welcome. And I truly hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you, Stan.
I have. Thank you for asking me, and hi to all your friends, and Stan the Man. Yes,
all the loveties watching around the world. Yes,
hopefully now there's Zimmer fans.
That's it. And there's the website to learn about all the cool things he's worked on and working on. And come by and see us again. It was really, truly a pleasure, Stan. Thanks for all the time.
Bye.
All right. See you later. Take care. Coming to us from Hollywood, LA, California, Stan Zimmerman joining us, and really nice extended conversation. And don't forget to get the book, because if you love stories, and we just scratched the surface of some of the things about the book. We didn't want to give it all away, because we'd love for you to get the book, where books are sold. You can go to Amazon and everywhere else. It's a terrific, terrific page turner. You're going to love it. And he's open, he's real in the book and authentic. And whether you are a super fan of these particular shows that we've been talking about, or, you just love to have a good read, you got to get the book. It's really terrific. It's called The Girls from Golden to Gilmore, Stories About the Wonderful Women I've Worked With, by our very special guest, Stan Zimmerman, joining us here on the Jim Masters Show live series. We appreciate Stan joining us from California. We appreciate you joining us as well. If you enjoyed the episode of the Jim Masters Show live series, we encourage you to do something special. Give this episode a like. Now, this will be archived on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. So if you just joined us late, since the show is live, if you just tuned in maybe in the middle of it and you missed something or want to see the whole thing in its entirety, no worries, because it's all archived on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, with some 1,200 episodes and counting, celebrity friends and guests who come in from all walks of life. And give this episode a thumbs up, leave a comment for us as well in the comments section. Share the episode on your social media. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. And for those of you around the world who have done that, and you're doing it right now, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. It does take a village to build and grow a series like the Jim Masters Show live series. Thanks for all the great comments, everybody. We appreciate all the words. I see it all here in the Lovely Hall chat room. We appreciate it, and we love having you here. Come by and see us again. As I always say, take care of one another, love one another, and don't forget to take care of and love yourself and spread that levity around the world. For all of us here, I'm Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, come see us again right here on the Jim Masters Show. I'll be right here waiting for you. Be well, and cheers.